Subscribe before the truth disappears. It began just before dusk on a quiet Friday in Northern California. The sky over Shasta County was still pale blue when the first 911 call came in, a trembling voice reporting a missing child. By the time deputies reached the cul-de-sac on Arrow Creek Road, porch lights were already flicking on, casting fractured light across driveways and empty yards. 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard had vanished sometime between 5:30 and 6:15 p.m. Her bike was found lying on its side at the edge of a dirt path that ran behind the neighborhood, one handlebar still spinning. A small pink backpack, her school bag, was discovered a few yards away, the zipper half open. Inside were notebooks, an unfinished snack, and a folded permission slip for a school field trip that would never happen. Detectives from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office arrived just before nightfall, led by Detective Aria Lowell, a methodical but sharp-eyed investigator known for finding patterns where others saw chaos. She spoke briefly with Melodee's mother, Dana Buzzard, who stood at the edge of her driveway clutching a flashlight that shook in her hand. Dana's eyes were red but strangely focused, a look halfway between shock and defiance. "She never goes far. She rides her bike, but she always comes back before dinner." Neighbors began to emerge, drawn by the flashing lights. Some joined the search immediately, walking the wooded perimeter behind the houses. Others whispered near mailboxes, trading fragments of rumor. One man claimed he'd seen a gray SUV idling by the trail earlier that evening. Another insisted a woman in a red hoodie had been walking alone just before sunset. Detective Lowell ordered a grid search, while uniformed deputies combed through brush, drainage ditches, and backyards. Dogs were brought in, noses low to the dirt. Their handlers reported intermittent traces of Melodee's scent, then nothing. The trail went cold barely 50 yards past the bike. Inside the Buzzard home, Lowell noticed small details: an uneaten dinner plate on the counter, a family photo with the frame slightly cracked, and a list of chores written in neat cursive on a whiteboard. At the bottom, a new addition in faint pencil: "Call Dad." When Lowell asked about it, Dana hesitated. "Her father doesn't live here anymore. He moved out 6 months ago. We don't talk much." By midnight, the scene had transformed into a command post. The FBI joined the next morning, their mobile unit parked outside the community center. A spokesperson gave the first official statement at 10 a.m. "We are treating this as a missing person investigation. At this time, there are no confirmed signs of abduction." But the tone said otherwise. Then, just before noon, something unexpected surfaced. A piece of surveillance footage from a gas station 2 miles from the Buzzard home. In the grainy image, time-stamped 6:27 p.m., a young girl matching Melodee's description walked past the pumps, clutching her backpack. A dark figure followed several feet behind. When Detective Lowell froze the frame, she saw a reflection in the station's glass door. A vehicle parked just out of view. Its headlights off, license plate unreadable. And then, the feed ended. The gas station's next recording just 30 seconds later saw nothing but the empty road. That night, as search teams expanded into the surrounding hills, Lowell stared at the still image of the shadow trailing Melodee. Her gut twisted, not just because of what was missing from the frame, but because of what wasn't supposed to be there at all. The timestamp read 6:27 p.m., but Dana Buzzard had told police her daughter's last sighting was just before 6 o'clock p.m. Lowell leaned closer to the monitor, tracing the faint reflection of the parked car. The make looked familiar. She'd seen one parked in the Buzzard driveway that morning. A silver SUV registered to Dana's estranged husband, Ethan Buzzard. When she pulled up the footage again, frame by frame, something caught her eye in the reflection of the SUV's windshield. A driver's side sticker, not a dealership logo. A visitor pass from Redwood Elementary School, where Melodee had classes. Lowell's voice broke the silence in the room. "Get me Ethan Buzzard's phone records, now." The next morning, As the sun bled over the Shasta foothills, detectives found the SUV, empty, parked near a river overlook 15 miles away. In the trunk, under a blanket, was one single item, Melodee's pink backpack. But inside it this time, a prepaid cell phone. And one unread message. Don't believe what she told you.
The prepaid phone sat in an evidence bag. Under harsh fluorescent light, its screen cracked but still glowing faintly. Detective Aria Lowell watched as the digital forensics tech plugged it into a data port. The phone had only been powered on twice, once at 6:23 p.m. the night Melodee vanished, and again briefly at 2:07 a.m., just hours before it was found. The message, "Don't believe what she told you," came from an unregistered number. No GPS pings, no service provider trail. Whoever sent it knew what they were doing. Lowell turned toward the window of the FBI's temporary command trailer. Outside, floodlights bathed the rural street in sterile white. Search teams still moved through the brush with dogs and thermal scopes, their radio chatter cutting through the night. Meanwhile, Melodee's parents had been separated into separate interview rooms. The mother, Dana Buzzard, sat silently at the precinct, eyes swollen but posture steady. Her ex-husband, Ethan Buzzard, had driven back into town that morning, claiming he'd been visiting his brother in Redding when he heard the news. "Where were you at 6:30?" Lowell asked him, her tone even but probing. Ethan rubbed his temple, his voice flat. "Like I said, I was driving back from Redding. I called Dana around 7. She didn't answer." Lowell slid a photo across the table, the gas station still image showing Melodee and the shadow behind her. "Then why is your vehicle visible here?" He stared, jaw tightening. "That's not me. My car was in my driveway until I left." "Do you live alone?" "Yes." "Do you live alone?" "Yes." "Anyone who can verify that?" "No." He sighed, shaking his head. "Look, we're not together. Dana and I have problems, but I wouldn't hurt my daughter. Lowell raised a hand. "We didn't say you did. We're just trying to understand why your car keeps showing up where it shouldn't be." An agent entered quietly, placing a folder beside her. Inside were Ethan's cell tower records. His phone had pinged at 6:19 p.m., less than a mile from the Buzzard residence. But there was something else. A second number, also registered in his name, showed a call placed to Dana's phone at 6:26 p.m., the exact time Melodee was last seen alive. Dana, in her separate interview, had told investigators she never got the call. Her phone had been on the counter while she cooked. Now that call log sat like a fracture line through the case. Lowell left the room and crossed into Dana's interview space. The mother's voice was soft, frayed. "You think he took her, don't you?" "We're not ruling anything out," Lowell said, "but I need to ask again, did you speak to him Friday evening?" Dana looked down. "No, he sent a message earlier in the day, said he wanted to see her this weekend. I told him it wasn't a good time." "What message?" Her hand trembled as she unlocked her phone. The text read, "I'll be in the area later, just a few minutes. She won't even know I was there." Lowell's pulse quickened. Within hours, the FBI had located traffic camera footage of Ethan's SUV leaving the Redding Highway ramp at 5:54 p.m. It then passed a service station 7 miles from Arrow Creek at 6:10 p.m., just before Melodee was last seen alive. But then came the twist. Another clip, captured at 6:28 p.m., showed the same SUV heading away from the neighborhood, turning north toward a wooded area. Search teams were immediately redirected. Helicopters hovered over creeks and ravines, their infrared scopes sweeping for heat or metal. By late afternoon, they found tire impressions on a dirt turnout near Lake Britain, matching Ethan's vehicle. Yet what they found next didn't fit the pattern. Half buried near the tree line was a second cell phone, registered to Dana Buzzard. And inside the phone's call history was a draft message, unsent, time-stamped at 6:24 p.m., just minutes before Melodee's disappearance. It read, "If anyone asks, say she was already gone when I got home." Lowell read it twice, her throat dry. She turned to Agent Serrano, the FBI liaison. "This isn't an abduction anymore. This is something else." That night, as the two parents sat separately in holding rooms, both repeating versions of the truth that no longer aligned, investigators cross-checked their GPS histories. Ethan's car had left the area at 6:29. Dana's phone had gone offline at 6:31, near the same gas station seen in the surveillance footage. And that prepaid phone in Melodee's backpack. It had been purchased 2 days earlier at the same pharmacy where Dana worked part-time. The next morning, the sheriff's office released a statement asking the public for continued assistance and privacy for the family. But behind closed doors, the tone shifted. Lowell stood before the evidence board. Photos, phone logs, and a single line of red string connecting both parents to that 6-minute window. She took a breath. "This wasn't random," she said quietly. "Someone planned for her to disappear, and they wanted the other one to take the fall." Agent Serrano frowned. "Which one?" Lowell looked back at the photo of Melodee, smiling, missing a tooth, holding her bike helmet. "That," she said, "depends on which parent sent the message first." The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of the overhead light. Then one of the analysts spoke up from behind a computer. "Detective, you'll want to see this." He turned the monitor toward her. On the recovered phone's encrypted folder, newly decrypted by the lab, was one file. Audio only, titled Friday 6:25 p.m.MP4. When they pressed play, the room filled with faint static, then a small, frightened voice whispering through the speaker. "Mom, are you there?"
The room was silent except for the faint hum of the speakers. The static faded, and then came that fragile voice again, the unmistakable tone of a frightened child. "Mom, are you there?" Detective Aria Lowell leaned forward, her knuckles white against the table. The forensic technician's hand hovered over the mouse, waiting for her signal. "Keep playing," she said quietly. There was a pause on the recording, the sound of distant movement, a car door closing, and then the crunch of gravel underfoot. The girl's voice returned, softer this time, muffled as if she were speaking from inside a vehicle. "I'm in the car. He said we're going to see Daddy." The room went cold. Agent Serrano exchanged a look with Lowell. "Timestamp?" she asked. 6:25 p.m., just 3 minutes before the SUV left the neighborhood. Lowell stood, her breath unsteady. "Get me both parents, now." 10:42 a.m., Shasta County Sheriff's Office. Dana Buzzard sat across from Detective Lowell in the interrogation room, her expression drained. Her hands shook as she held a styrofoam cup of untouched coffee. Lowell placed the evidence folder between them. Inside was a still image, a close-up of the second cell phone found near Lake Britain. The words "bedroom closet" were written faintly in marker on its back. "You bought the prepaid phone, Dana. You bought it 2 days before your daughter disappeared." Dana's eyes filled, but she didn't deny it. "I was scared. He'd been following me. He said he wanted her back, just for a weekend, but I didn't trust him. I thought, if something happened, I'd need proof." "Proof of what?" "That he took her." "But you didn't go to the police?" Dana's shoulders slumped. "They wouldn't listen. They said it was a custody thing, that I needed to talk to family court. I thought I could handle it myself." Lowell watched her closely. "So you followed them that night?" Dana froze. Lowell continued, voice low, deliberate. "You followed your daughter down Arrow Creek Road. You saw her meet someone, but not Ethan, did you?" Dana's breath quickened. "I just wanted to make sure she was safe. But when you got there, she was gone." Tears rolled down Dana's cheeks. "I swear I didn't see him." She didn't move. Then why did your phone go offline at 6:31? Dana looked up, eyes wide. Because I threw it. I panicked. I thought they'd think I did it. Across the hall, Ethan Buzzard sat under the harsh light, his lawyer silent beside him. Lowell entered, setting the recorder on the table. We found an audio file, your daughter's voice. Ethan's eyes flicked up, the first real sign of emotion she'd seen. You found her? No, but we know she was alive at 6:25, in a car. He swallowed hard. That's not possible. I wasn't... She slid a photo toward him, the SUV at the gas station, time-stamped, headlights off. You said you left home at 6. The cameras say otherwise. The cell towers place you right behind your daughter's route. His jaw clenched. You think I'd hurt her? She's my... We think, Lowell interrupted, you were set up to look like you did. He stared at her, confused. By who? Lowell didn't answer. She turned the recording back on. The faint static returned, followed by a man's voice in the distance, indistinct, calm. Then Melodee again. He said Mommy's not coming. He said it's just me and him. Ethan's face went white. That's not me, he whispered. Lowell hit pause. Then you better start explaining who else had your car. That evening, the forensics team recovered dashcam footage from a nearby delivery truck that had passed Arrow Creek Road at 6:22 p.m. The reflection in its windshield, barely visible until enhanced, showed a figure leading a small child toward a vehicle. Not Ethan, not Dana. Someone else entirely. The man's features were faint but distinctive. A beard, a baseball cap, a blue work shirt with a patch that read Buzzard Electric. The company had been sold months ago, but its name remained tied to the family, a legacy business that Ethan's brother Calvin Buzzard had once operated before moving out of state. Except, according to DMV records, Calvin had returned 2 weeks earlier and had rented a property less than 10 miles from where Melodee's backpack was found. When deputies arrived at the cabin that night, it was empty. No lights, no vehicle. But in the ash-filled fireplace, they found the melted remains of a cell phone casing, identical to the prepaid model from Dana's purchase. And on the kitchen counter, a single slip of paper. She never belonged to either of you. 3 days later, as the search expanded across the county, a ranger near Lake Britain discovered something in the reeds by the shore, a sleeping bag, damp and empty, beside a small camping stove. Inside the bag was a bracelet with blue beads, identical to one seen in Melodee's spool photo. Lowell stood at the water's edge, wind whipping her coat, her jaw tight. "Do you think she's alive?" Serrano asked quietly. She watched the sun dip behind the trees, her eyes following the river that wound north through the forest. "I don't know," she said, "but he didn't take her to hide her. He took her because he thought she belonged with him." She turned back toward the cruiser, the weight of every unanswered question pressing on her shoulders. The final report, released a week later, officially listed Calvin Buzzard as a person of interest. The FBI issued a warrant, his face appearing on national news. Dana and Ethan Buzzard were cleared of direct involvement, though both remained under investigation for obstruction and false statements. Melodee's name joined the National Database for Missing Children. The file remained open, labeled Active Investigation. But in Detective Lowell's office, one small piece of evidence stayed pinned to her board. The last 5 seconds of that recovered audio, slowed and cleaned by the lab. After the final whisper, after the static faded, a faint background sound emerged, rhythmic, mechanical, echoing like metal against rail. A passing train. Lowell stared at the map, tracing her finger along the tracks that led north through the forest. The last confirmed sighting set just 10 miles from an abandoned freight stop. She exhaled slowly. She's out there.
And somewhere far beyond Shasta County, in the cool dawn haze, a freight train groaned northward, its lone passenger car carrying a small figure, silent, watching through the window as California disappeared behind her. If you thought this one was wild, the narrator's voice fades. Wait for the next. Hit subscribe before the truth disappears.